The rain came down in sheets that November afternoon, turning the streets of suburban Portland into rivers of gray. Claire Donovan stood at her kitchen window, watching water stream down the glass, blurring the world outside. Behind her the house was silent, except for the soft hum of medical equipment from down the hall, a sound that had become the metronome of her life. It had been 8 months since the accident. 8 months since a distracted driver ran a red light and turned her 12-year-old son's body into a collection of titanium rods and shattered dreams. Ethan survived, but the boy who used to skateboard down these wet streets was gone. In his place was a child trapped in a body that no longer obeyed him from the waist down, confined to a wheelchair, dependent on others for everything, and Claire had failed to protect him. That thought circled her mind like a vulture, relentless and hungry. She'd been running late that day, just 5 minutes late picking him up from school. So Ethan had started walking. Just 3 blocks. 3 blocks that destroyed everything. "Mrs. Donovan?" The voice behind her was soft, accented with the lilting cadence of Eastern Europe. "I've finished with Ethan's exercises. He is resting now." Claire turned to face Irina Volkov, the home care aide she'd hired 6 weeks ago. The woman was in her mid-40s with ash-blonde hair pulled back in a practical bun, and eyes the color of winter steel. She wore scrubs decorated with cartoon characters, an attempt at cheerfulness that seemed incongruous with her serious demeanor. "How did he do today?" Claire asked, her voice tight with anxiety that never left. "Good. Very good. His upper body is getting stronger, and he smiled today. When I tell him story about my village in Ukraine." Irina's expression softened slightly. "He is good boy. Brave boy." Claire nodded, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. Ethan smiled so rarely now. The psychological wounds ran deeper than the physical ones. "Thank you, Irina. Same time tomorrow?" "Yes, of course, I see myself out." The aide gathered her coat from the hook by the door, pausing before she left. "Mrs. Donovan, you must also rest. You look very tired." After Irina left, Claire locked the door, something she did compulsively now, checking it 3-4 times before she could walk away. Then she went to Ethan's room, converted from what used to be the downstairs den so he wouldn't have to navigate stairs. He was lying in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling with those dark eyes that used to sparkle with mischief. Now they just looked hollow. "Hey, buddy," she said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Irina said you did great today." "She tells stories about her childhood," Ethan said, his voice quiet. "About her brother who died in a war. About her son who lives in Seattle but doesn't visit her much." Claire felt a pang of something. Jealousy? Concern? Irina was sharing personal information with her son, creating a connection Claire both wanted for him and feared. "That's nice of her," Claire managed. "Mom, you don't have to worry so much. Irina's okay. She's actually pretty cool." But Claire did worry. She worried constantly, obsessively. She worried when she went to her remote job as a medical transcriptionist in the converted garage office. She worried during the 3 days a week Ethan had homebound tutoring. She worried during every moment she wasn't physically in the same room with him. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, Claire sat at her laptop in the dimly lit kitchen, rain still drumming against the windows. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed, "Hidden home security cameras wireless." The search results flooded her screen. Tiny cameras disguised as smoke detectors, clocks, air fresheners, motion activated, night vision equipped, storing footage to the cloud. She could watch from anywhere, anytime. It's not spying, she told herself. It's protection. It's making sure nothing happens when I can't be there. By midnight, she'd ordered 6 cameras. They'd arrive in 2 days. She didn't sleep well. She never did anymore. In her dreams, she was always running late, always watching Ethan walk away from her, always 5 minutes too slow to stop what was coming. The cameras arrived on a Wednesday. Small, innocuous devices that Claire installed while Ethan was engrossed in an online gaming session. She placed one in the living room, disguised as a digital clock, one in the kitchen, tucked into a decorative shelf, one in the hallway outside Ethan's room, one in his room itself hidden in the bookshelf. Her hands shook as she activated each one through the app on her phone. 4 little windows showed her different angles of her home, recording continuously, storing everything in the cloud. "Just until I'm sure," she told herself. "Just until I know everything's okay." But she knew that moment would never come. The fear had grown roots too deep to pull out. Over the next week, Claire developed a new routine. She'd work in her office, but every 20 minutes she'd pull up the app and scan through the cameras. She'd watch Irina help Ethan with his exercises, the aide's hands professional and efficient. She'd watch them eat lunch together at the kitchen table, Irina cutting Ethan's food into manageable pieces without making him feel infantilized. Everything looked normal, professional, appropriate, but Claire kept watching. She watched late at night, reviewing the day's footage like she was searching for evidence of a crime that hadn't been committed yet. She studied Irina's face, looking for micro-expressions that might reveal hidden intentions. "You're becoming paranoid," her sister Rachel told her during one of their increasingly rare phone calls. Rachel lived in Seattle with her husband and 2 healthy children. "I'm being careful," Claire corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "Claire, you can't live like this. You've vetted this woman thoroughly. She's been nothing but professional. You don't understand. You can't understand. Your children are fine." The silence that followed was heavy with hurt feelings and the growing chasm between their lives. That night, reviewing footage from earlier in the day, Claire noticed something that made her pause. It was subtle, just a moment when Irina thought she was alone in the kitchen. The aide's professional mask had slipped, and her face showed profound sadness, a weariness that went bone deep. Claire rewound the footage, watched it again. There was something in that unguarded moment that surprised her. Irina wasn't just a caregiver doing a job. She was a human being carrying her own weight of sorrow. But that realization didn't comfort Claire. If anything, it made her more nervous. What kind of sorrow? What kind of past? What might someone with that depth of pain be capable of? She made a note to research Irina more thoroughly. Background checks could miss things. People hid secrets. People wore masks. Claire knew that better than anyone. After all, she was hiding cameras in her own home, watching a woman who didn't know she was being observed every moment. "It's for Ethan," she reminded herself as she lay in bed unable to sleep, the glow of her phone screen illuminating her face as she watched the night vision feed of her son's room. "Everything I do is for Ethan." The rain continued outside, endless and cold, and somewhere in the footage she'd already recorded but hadn't yet watched, something was waiting to be discovered, something that would change everything. The fortress she'd built to keep danger out had become a prison, and she didn't even know it yet. 3 weeks after installing the cameras, Claire had reviewed hundreds of hours of footage. Her eyes burned from screen time, and her sleep deprivation had reached dangerous levels. The medical transcription work was suffering. She'd made errors, missed deadlines, received a warning email. She watched Irina arrive each morning at 9, always punctual. She watched the aide move through the house with quiet efficiency, preparing Ethan's medications, helping him with tasks that made Claire's heart ache. She watched them work through physical therapy exercises, Irina patient and encouraging even when Ethan grew frustrated. "I can't do this," Ethan's voice came through the speaker on one recording. "What's the point? I'm never going to walk again anyway." Claire's hand hovered over her phone, ready to rush from her office. But then she heard Irina's response. "You are right. Maybe you never walk again. But maybe you do. Doctors are sometimes wrong. But that is not why we do this." Irina's voice was firm, but not unkind. "We do this so your body stays strong, so you can still do many things, so you can have good life even if it is different life than before." A good life? Ethan's laugh was bitter. "Stuck in this chair? You are not broken. You are changed. There is difference." A pause. "My brother, the one I told you about, he lost his leg in war. Landmine. He was very angry like you. He say his life is over. But you know what he did? He become teacher. He teach children about peace, about being kind to people who are different. What happened to him? He died. Different war 5 years later. But those 5 years he was happy, really happy. Because he stopped fighting what happened and start living with what is." Claire had watched that exchange 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Irina was saying things to Ethan that Claire couldn't, things he wouldn't hear from his mother. But that scared her too. The growing bond between Irina and Ethan, the way her son's face lit up when the aide arrived. It was a Thursday afternoon in early December when Claire noticed something that made her stomach drop. She was reviewing the morning footage when she saw Irina do something unusual. After helping Ethan into his wheelchair and getting him settled with his online tutoring, the aide didn't go to the kitchen as usual. Instead, she walked down the hallway toward the bedrooms. Claire's pulse quickened. She watched the hallway camera feed. Irina paused outside Claire's bedroom door, glanced back toward where Ethan was, then opened the door and went inside. What is she doing? Claire switched to her phone, but there was no camera in her bedroom. She watched the hallway feed, heart pounding. 60 seconds passed. 90. 2 minutes. Finally, the aide emerged, her face composed, carrying nothing, showing no sign of guilt. She walked back to the kitchen and began preparing Ethan's lunch as if nothing had happened. Claire's hands trembled. What had just happened? Was Irina stealing something? Going through her things? In her bedroom, Claire searched frantically. Her jewelry box, all still there. The dresser drawers, undisturbed. The closet, unchanged. What had Irina been looking for? Then she noticed her nightstand. The drawer was slightly ajar, not quite flush with the frame. Claire pulled it open. Inside was the usual clutter, and underneath, she found what Irina had been looking at. A photograph, the only one Claire kept out of sight because it hurt too much to see. It showed Ethan at his 11th birthday party before the accident. He was mid-jump on a trampoline, arms spread wide, mouth open in pure joy. It was the last photo taken of him using his legs. Claire sank onto the bed holding the picture. Irina had looked at this, had seen Ethan whole and happy and everything he would never be again. But why? That evening, after Irina left, Claire confronted Ethan carefully. Has Irina ever asked you questions about before the accident? Ethan looked at her warily. Sometimes. Why? What kind of questions? Just normal stuff, like what sports I played, what I liked to do. He paused. She asked if I was angry at the person who hit us. What did you tell her? I said yes, that I hate him, that I hope his life is ruined like mine is. Ethan's voice cracked. She said that was normal, but that hate is heavy to carry. That's not her place to say, Claire snapped. Why are you being like this? Irina's trying to help me. I'm your mother. I'm the one who helps you. You watch me like I'm going to break. Irina treats me like I'm still a person. The words landed like physical blows. Claire couldn't find a response. That night, she watched the footage again, obsessively. And then, at 11:47 p.m., reviewing the kitchen camera from earlier that evening, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Irina had come back. The timestamp showed 8:15 p.m., more than an hour after she'd officially left. Claire watched, hands shaking, as Irina entered through the back door. She went directly to Ethan's room, closing the door softly behind her. Claire switched frantically to the camera in Ethan's room. What she saw wasn't what she expected. Irina sat in the chair beside Ethan's bed where he slept peacefully. The aide wasn't touching him, wasn't doing anything threatening. She was just sitting there, watching him sleep with an expression of such profound sadness that it was painful to witness. And then Irina did something that shattered all of Claire's assumptions. She began to cry. Silent tears streamed down the aide's face. Her shoulders shook with suppressed sobs, and she pulled from her pocket a photograph. Claire couldn't see it clearly, and pressed it to her chest. After several minutes, Irina wiped her eyes, stood and whispered something Claire couldn't hear, then gently kissed Ethan's forehead. Not inappropriately, but the way someone might kiss a memorial. Then she left as quietly as she'd come. Claire sat in her dark kitchen, her entire body numb with shock. This wasn't what she'd been protecting Ethan from. This wasn't danger or threat. This was something else entirely. Something she didn't understand yet. She watched the footage again, and again, studying Irina's face, trying to decode the mystery of her midnight visit. Who are you? Claire wondered. And what am I actually seeing? Claire didn't confront Irina immediately. Instead, she became an excavator of surveillance footage, searching for meaning in moments she'd overlooked. She watched Irina with new eyes, looking past surface actions to the currents of emotion underneath. And once she started looking, she saw patterns she'd missed. The way Irina's hand trembled when she helped Ethan transfer from wheelchair to bed. The way she closed her eyes for just a moment, as if gathering strength. The way she kept a photograph in her bag, visible for just seconds, showing a young boy with dark hair and a bright smile. Her son, the one Irina had mentioned living in Seattle. On a Friday afternoon, Claire did something she'd been avoiding. She called the home care agency. I'm calling about Irina Volkov, Claire said. I was wondering if you could provide some additional background information. Is there a problem with Mrs. Volkov's care? No problem. I just wanted to know more about her. I'm not comfortable sharing personal information about our employees. If you have specific concerns, never mind, Claire interrupted. Thank you. That night, Claire searched Irina's name online. The results were sparse. No social media, no digital footprint beyond a professional profile, but there was one result that made Claire's breath catch. A news article from 5 years ago in the Seattle Times. Local teen dies in tragic accident at Green Lake. Claire's hands shook as she clicked the link. Anton Volkov, 14, died yesterday after drowning in Green Lake. Witnesses reported seeing the boy venture too far from shore despite not being a strong swimmer. By the time lifeguards reached him, he had been underwater for several minutes. He was pronounced dead at Harborview Medical Center. Anton is survived by his mother, Irina Volkov, and his father, Dmitry Volkov. The family had recently immigrated from Ukraine. Anton was a student at Roosevelt High School and was described by teachers as bright and eager to embrace his new life in America. The article included a photograph. Anton Volkov's school picture. Dark hair, bright eyes, a smile that held both hope and adolescent awkwardness. The same boy from the photograph in Irina's bag. Claire closed her laptop and sat in the dark, tears streaming down her face. Not for herself this time, but for Irina, for the weight the woman carried every day, caring for other people's children while her own child was dead. She sees Anton, in Ethan. The realization hit Claire like cold water. That's why Irina came back at night. That's why she cried watching Ethan sleep. That's why she looked at the photograph of Ethan before his accident. Because she was remembering her own son whole and happy. But was that appropriate? Was Irina using Ethan to process her own grief? Claire didn't know. The ethical boundaries seemed impossibly tangled. The next morning, Saturday, Irina wasn't scheduled to come. Claire was distracted, barely present as she helped Ethan with his morning routine. "Mom, you're being weird," Ethan said. "Weirder than usual." "I'm fine." "You're lying. Your voice gets all tight." Claire sighed. "I'm just tired, buddy. You're always tired. But this is different." "Do you like Irina?" Claire asked, not turning around. "Yeah, she's cool." "Why? How do you feel when she's here? Do you feel safe?" "Mom, what is this? Did Irina do something wrong? Just answer the question." Ethan was quiet. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I feel normal when she's here. Or like, as normal as I can feel. She doesn't treat me like I'm fragile. She doesn't hover. She just helps when I need help. Unlike you." He didn't say it, but Claire heard it anyway. "She tells me about her life," Ethan continued. "About her son who lives in Seattle. He's in college now, studying engineering. She's really proud of him even though he doesn't visit much." Claire's hands stilled. Irina had lied to Ethan, or created a fiction, a bearable story to replace unbearable truth. What else did she tell you about him? That he's 20 now, that he likes computers and rock climbing, that he sends her pictures of mountains he's climbed. Ethan paused. "Why?" "Because everything you think you know is a story. Because the son she talks about is dead. Because she comes here at night and cries while watching you sleep. Because I have cameras everywhere and I don't know what to do with what I've learned." "No reason," Claire said. "I'm just curious." That night, after Ethan was asleep, Claire opened her laptop and compiled a file of every meaningful interaction between Irina and Ethan. What she found wasn't evidence of danger. It was evidence of healing. She watched Irina challenge Ethan when he wallowed in self-pity. She watched the aide teach him Ukrainian phrases, turning lessons into games that made him laugh. She watched Irina demonstrate adaptive techniques, showing Ethan how people with disabilities lived full lives. And she watched Ethan change, incrementally, but undeniably. He smiled more. He complained less. He started talking about possibilities, maybe hand cycling, maybe adaptive sports, maybe even going back to regular school. All things Claire had suggested and been rebuffed. All things Ethan could hear from Irina but not from his mother. At 2 a.m., Claire was still watching when she saw something that made her heart stop. It was from 2 nights ago. The timestamp showed 10:20 p.m. Once again, Irina had returned, but this time, Ethan was awake. Claire watched, horrified and fascinated, as Irina entered Ethan's room. Her son sat up, not surprised. "You came back?" Ethan said softly. "I could not sleep. I thought maybe you also could not sleep. Sometimes I have nightmares." "About the accident?" Irina sat in the chair. "I also have nightmares. About drowning. About not being able to breathe." "Do you dream about your son?" Claire leaned closer to the screen, hardly breathing. "Yes," Irina said quietly. Always I dream about him. What's he really like? You tell me the good stuff, but what's he actually like? He is. Irina's voice caught. He is frozen in time. 14 years old forever. I tell you stories about who he might have become because I cannot bear to speak about who he was when he died. Does this make me a terrible person? Silence stretched. Then Ethan's small voice. He's dead, isn't he? Yes. I knew, I guessed. The way you talk about him, it's the way people talk about people they've lost. My mom talks about me like that sometimes even though I'm right here. She is afraid of losing you. It makes her hold too tight. She's suffocating me. I know she can't help it, but I can't breathe. I know. This is why I come sometimes. To give you space to breathe. Claire's tears blurred the screen. She watched her son and this woman create a space of honesty that she herself couldn't provide. And they were both right. She was suffocating him. Her fear was a cage. What was his name? Ethan asked. Your real son. Anton. He drowned. 5 years ago. I'm sorry. I am sorry too. Sorry that you know this pain. But Ethan, you are still alive. Your life is not over. It is just different now. Anton has no more chances, but you have many chances. Please do not waste them. I don't know how to live like this. Nobody knows how until they do it. But I will help you. And your mother, she will learn. She loves you so much it blinds her. But love is like this sometimes. Too bright to see clearly. Claire closed the laptop, unable to watch anymore. She sat in her dark kitchen, surrounded by her fortress of surveillance, and finally understood that she'd been looking in the wrong direction all along. The danger wasn't outside. The danger was her own fear, metastasizing into something that would destroy her relationship with her son. And Irina, the woman she'd been spying on, had been doing what Claire couldn't, had been giving Ethan what Claire was too broken to provide. Space to grieve, permission to be angry, and hope that life could continue even after it was shattered. The rain had started again, washing the streets clean while Claire sat in darkness, confronting the most difficult truth, that sometimes protection and love required letting go, even when every instinct screamed to hold tighter. Sunday morning arrived with rare winter sunlight breaking through Portland's clouds. Claire hadn't slept. She'd spent the entire night thinking, past the static of her anxiety and fear. By dawn, she'd made several decisions. The first was the hardest. She began by deleting the camera app from her phone. Then, one by one, she physically removed each camera from its hiding place. The one disguised as a clock, the one in the kitchen, the one in the hallway, the one in Ethan's room. That one she held for a long moment before dropping it into the box with the others. The fortress was coming down. Monday morning at 8:55 a.m., Claire was waiting when Irina arrived. The aide came through the front door and paused when she saw Claire's expression. Mrs. Donovan, is something wrong? We need to talk. Before you see Ethan. Irina's face went carefully neutral. Of course. They sat at the kitchen table, morning light streaming through the windows. I know about Anton. Irina's mask shattered. Her face went white, then red. How? I found a news article. About the drowning at Green Lake. Claire paused. I'm so sorry for your loss. You researched me? Irina's voice shook. Yes. And worse than that. Claire forced herself to continue. I installed cameras. Throughout the house. Hidden cameras. I've been watching you since you started working here. The silence was devastating. Irina stared at her, understanding dawning, and with it a look of profound betrayal. You spy on me? This whole time? Irina's accent thickened with emotion. You watch me like I am criminal? I was afraid You were afraid I lose my child. I live every day with this hole in my heart. And I come here, I try to help your son, and you watch me like I am danger. Irina stood abruptly. I should leave. This is violation. It is, Claire said quietly. It's a complete violation of your privacy. And I'm not going to make excuses. I was wrong. I was so consumed by my fear that I couldn't see anything clearly. I couldn't trust anyone, even someone who was helping him more than I was. More than you? Irina turned back, her anger now mixed with sadness. You are his mother. You love him. This is not competition. But you're doing something I can't. You're giving him space to heal, space to be angry. And I've been suffocating him with my fear. Irina sat back down slowly. You watch the cameras? You see me come back at night? Yes. What I do. It is not appropriate. I should not come when I am not scheduled. But when I see Ethan, I see... She couldn't finish. You see Anton? Claire said gently. Yes and no. I see boy who is suffering. Boy who is alive but wishes he was not. This I cannot watch and do nothing. My son is dead. I cannot save him. But maybe I can help yours understand that his life is not over. Just changed. Have you been in therapy? For Anton? Irina laughed bitterly. Of course, for 2 years. They tell me I have complicated grief that I must let go. But how do you let go of your child? Claire understood that question more than she wanted to admit. You don't really. You just learn to carry it differently. They sat in silence. 2 mothers on different sides of an unimaginable divide. One whose child had died. One whose child lived but in a form that required grieving the child he'd been. I should have told you about Anton, Irina finally said. But I was afraid you would not hire me. Are you? Claire asked. Using Ethan to work through your grief? Maybe. Yes. Probably. Irina met her eyes. But does it matter if it helps him? He is getting better, Mrs. Donovan. You see this, yes? Claire felt tears threatening. I see it. I've watched him change. Watched him respond to you in ways he won't respond to me. Because I am not his mother. I do not carry the weight of that accident. You blame yourself. He feels this. It makes him feel he must protect you from his own pain. I was 5 minutes late picking him up. And if you were on time, maybe different car hits you both. Maybe worse things happen. You cannot know. You torture yourself with what if. But there is no answer to what if. There is only what is. Claire wiped her eyes. Why did you go into my bedroom? I see photograph on your nightstand. Ethan before accident. So happy. And I think, I want to remember how he was. So when he is sad, I can remember there was joy. That joy is possible again. Irina paused. I should not have done this. It was wrong. I am sorry. I'm sorry too. For the cameras. For not trusting you. You are mother. Mother's job is to protect. But sometimes protection becomes prison. The truth of that hit Claire hard. Ethan told me I watch him like he's going to break. That you treat him like he's still a person. He is still person. Wheelchair does not change this. I know that intellectually. But my fear, it's so big, Irina. You start by turning off cameras. This is good first step. Claire laughed wetly. I took them all down this morning. Good. Now second step, you must let Ethan see you are not afraid of him. When you treat him like he is fragile, he becomes fragile. When you treat him like he is strong, he becomes strong. Is that what you do? I tell him truth. That his life will be hard. That people will be cruel sometimes. But also, that he can still have love, friendship, purpose, joy. That disability does not mean inability. That he gets to decide what his life means, not the accident. And he listens to you. Because I am not his mother. Because I have nothing to lose if he stays angry. You need him to be okay so you can breathe again. He feels this pressure. Claire absorbed this. I've been making everything worse, haven't I? No. You have been loving him the only way you know how. But now maybe you can learn new way. They talked for another hour, planning how to move forward. Irina would continue as Ethan's caregiver, but they would establish clearer boundaries. In exchange, Claire would work with a therapist. They would also tell Ethan the truth. About Anton. About the cameras. About everything. When Ethan woke and came out to the kitchen, he immediately sensed the charged atmosphere. What's going on? Over the next 30 minutes, they explained everything. Claire confessed to the cameras. Irina shared the truth about Anton. You spied on me? Ethan's voice cracked. After everything, you couldn't even trust me to be safe? I didn't trust the world to keep you safe. So you put cameras in my room? Yes. And it was wrong. I'm so sorry, Ethan. Ethan turned to Irina. And you've been lying about your son? Yes. I wanted to protect you from my sadness. But this was also wrong. So everyone's been lying to me. Great. Ethan spun his wheelchair away, facing the window. His shoulders shook. Claire started to reach for him but stopped. Space. He needed space. When Ethan finally spoke, his voice was small. Did you watch when I cried? Yes. Claire whispered. Did you see me try to stand up late at night? Did you see me fall? Yes. And you didn't come? No. And I hated myself for it. But I watched. And I saw you survive those moments. I saw you be angry and sad and then keep going. And I realized you were stronger than I was giving you credit for. Ethan was quiet. When he turned back, his eyes were red. I need time to process this. Both of you need to give me time. Of course, Irina said. Take all the time you need, Claire added. But I want to know one thing. Ethan looked at Irina. Your son, Anton, would you tell me about the real him? Irina's face crumpled. Yes, I can do this. It will be hard, but I can do this. Good. Because I think I need to know that someone else understands, and Mom, you try, but you don't really get it. You get the parent version of losing me, but you don't get what it's like to be me. You're right, Claire said. I don't. So here's what we're going to do. Irina keeps coming. No more cameras ever. And Mom, you're going to back off. I need room to figure things out. I can do that, Claire said, though the promise felt like stepping off a cliff. Or I can try. Trying is good enough. For now. The next 3 months were hard. Claire kept her promise. No cameras. No hovering. She started therapy twice a week, working through her trauma. Slowly, incrementally, she began to heal. Irina continued as Ethan's caregiver, but their relationship evolved. She told him about Anton, the real boy, about the drowning, about her guilt, about the years of grief, and Ethan told her about his anger, his fear, his nightmares. They helped each other heal, these two people who understood loss in different but parallel ways. Claire learned to watch without surveillance. She learned to be present without suffocating. She learned that trust wasn't the absence of fear. It was choosing connection despite the fear. On a rainy April afternoon, Claire came home to find Ethan in the driveway. He was in his wheelchair, wearing a helmet, practicing with a hand cycle. Irina stood nearby, not hovering, just present. When she saw Claire, she smiled and went inside to give them space. Claire watched her son propel himself down the driveway, his arms strong, his face determined. When he reached the end, he turned and saw her watching. No cameras this time, right? He called out, humor in his voice. No cameras, Claire called back. Just a mom watching her kid do something hard. I'm going to ride to the end of the block. Don't freak out. I won't freak out, Claire lied, but she smiled. She watched him go, navigating the street. Every instinct screamed at her to follow, to protect, to prevent whatever terrible thing might happen next. But she stayed in the driveway, hands in her pockets, learning what it meant to love without imprisoning. When Ethan reached the corner and turned back, pumping hard, Claire saw something she hadn't seen since before the accident. Not happiness exactly. That would take more time. But determination. Purpose. The beginning of someone figuring out how to live differently. Inside, through the window, she could see Irina washing dishes, and Claire thought about the strange grace of how they'd all found each other. The surveillance had revealed what Claire needed to see, but not what she'd been looking for. The real work was internal, learning to loosen her grip, to trust resilience she couldn't control, to accept that protection sometimes meant stepping back instead of closing in. Ethan made it back, breathing hard, grinning. I'm going to do it again, time me. 32 minutes, Claire said, checking her watch, though she had no idea how long he'd actually been out there. Liar. But thanks. He headed down the driveway again, and this time Claire went inside. Irina was at the sink. When Claire entered, the aide smiled. He is doing well today. Because of you. You gave him something I couldn't. I gave him space, but you are learning to give him freedom. This is harder gift. It's terrifying. Yes, but he will fall sometimes. And you will survive this. He will survive this. This is what love means, not preventing the falls, but teaching him to get back up. Through the window, they watched Ethan navigate the street, arms pumping, face set with concentration. The rain had started again, but he didn't stop. He kept going, getting wet, getting stronger, getting used to his new body and his new life. And Claire, standing with a woman who understood loss in ways she hoped she'd never fully comprehend, finally felt something she hadn't felt in 8 months. Hope. Not the naive hope that everything would go back to how it was. That was gone forever. But the harder, more resilient hope that something new could be built from what remained. The cameras had shown her what she needed to see. But only by letting go could she finally see what mattered. That trust wasn't surveillance, that protection wasn't control, and that love meant having the courage to watch your child ride away, even when every cell screamed to chase after them. Outside, Ethan reached the corner and turned back. This time he raised one arm in triumph, wobbling but not falling, and even from inside, Claire could hear him laughing. And for the first time since the accident, she let herself believe that maybe they were all going to be okay. Not fixed, Not the same, but okay. And sometimes, that was enough.